there are 3 levels of nafs mentioned in the Qur'an. The first one is Nafs al-Lawwamah, which is the evil commanding nafs. Then we have the Nafs al-Lawwamah, which is the self-accusing nafs. And then Nafs al-Mutma'inna, which is the peaceful nafs. I want to focus on Nafs al-Lawwamah. And what I tell you today, I feel that you will be able to relate to in your everyday life, because you find that this aspect of the nafs is constantly present and it makes itself known to us. And as I go through it, you'll understand what I mean. Before we get to the Nafs al-Lawwamah, we are really under the command of the Nafs al-Ammara, which is the evil commanding nafs. Basically, under the reign of the evil commanding nafs, we are unaware and unconscious. So at the Nafs al-Ammara, we're not conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're very much about us, our ego, what we want, what our desires are, wanting to satisfy our desires. That's the kind of state we are in with the evil commanding nafs. And we cannot see the state we are in, and we do not see the harm we do to ourselves and to others. So that's the other thing. We're just so immersed in ourselves and our desires that we don't even realize we're doing harm to other people. But as the light of faith and inner understanding grows, we begin to see ourselves clearly, perhaps for the first time. So as Allah enters our lives at a conscious level, things start to shift. We start to change the direction or the focus. We realize that the focus isn't really about us, but at the core of our focus, what we should be focusing on is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is where the Nafs al-Lawwamah, the self-accusing nafs, comes in. So you might think, why is it called self-accusing nafs? Before I explain that, I'll tell you some of the other names that it's known by. The soul which blames, the reproaching soul, self-reproaching nafs, admonishing soul, the soul that censors itself. So you can see a pattern here with the names. It's all about accusing itself, blaming itself, being uncomfortable really with itself. And this is an indication of an awakening, an awareness that's coming about, and knowing what one should be doing and then realizing where they might be instead. So that's where the tension that exists with this level of the ego. You know where you want to be, but you know where you are. You know where you should be, but you know where the reality is. Now, this level of the nafs is mentioned in the Qur'an, and in the Qur'an, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and I swear by the self-accusing human nafs. So here, clearly mentioning the Nafs al-Lawwamah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala swears by it. So it exists. It's a reality, and it's a reality that we all need to deal with. So after experiencing an awareness of Allah and seeing the need to enter into a path of spirituality, a person then commits to a way of religion. So they, I guess, are now committed to a way where they feel Allah would be pleased with. They're committed to a lifestyle, or they want to commit to a lifestyle that they believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with. And with this, they try to control their actions. So we try to control our actions. We try to do what's the right thing. We try to stay away from what's wrong. And so there's this commitment, you could say. There's this recognition and an awareness to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the religion. But since the person has not yet mastered his or her own helm, they stumble along the way. Okay, so it's all new. It's still learning experience, and they stumble along the way, blaming themselves for not being true to their commitment. They learn from the experience and resolve to renew their commitment. So each time they, I guess, make a mistake, they realize, oh, I should not have done that. And then there's this new realization, or there's this new commitment, recommitment to doing the right thing. And this fits in very well with the understanding of that inner jihad that we talk about, the inner struggle. There honestly is this inner struggle that's happening, taking place in this situation, because you're kind of torn between the two, where your ego is still wanting to, follow the desires, but there's a part of you, your conscience, that wants to do the right thing and follow the instructions and commandments of Allah. So this tension is sometimes felt very strongly. It could be if we find ourselves in a situation like you're with people, for example. Think of this scenario. You're with people and they're all gossiping about something. Now, you know deep down that you shouldn't be part of that gossip, that you shouldn't really be involved, but a part of you is also interested, curious about what's being said, and you want to also vent about that person. So you feel this tension within you of, no, I really shouldn't be talking about this person. And another side of you thinking, wait a minute, let's find out what they really did. This sounds like juicy gossip. And that's why they call it juicy gossip, because to the nafs, to the ego, it sounds very, very juicy and enticing. But for a person who is God conscious, it's very uncomfortable. So you sway between these two situations. And this struggle can continue. And I do believe it continues for life. And it might get more nuanced as a person spiritually grows. So initially, when a person first becomes a conscious Muslim, embraces Islam, that tension may be more at the basic level, where it could be, do I drink alcohol or do I not? You know, if a person was drinking alcohol all their life and then all of a sudden they've decided not to because Allah commands them not to, that's a tension, because part of them wants to do it. Their ego wants to do it, but another part of them says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not be pleased with me if I do this, and that tension occurs. And then it can get, as I said, a bit more sophisticated or more nuanced, where as a person matures spiritually, the tension is at another level, really. And that could be the gossiping. So you're not doing something like drinking alcohol or committing fornication, but it might be about, gossiping or being arrogant, where that tension happens. And then it could be at a higher level, even so, where, when you've spiritually grown and you're getting this attention from people, let's say, you're doing a talk for the sake of Allah, your intention is good, and then people come to you and say, wow, that was so fantastic, you're so good. There's tension there again, because a part of you is saying, I'm doing this for the sake of Allah, but a part of you, your nafs, is liking that attention, is liking that liking those compliments. And so you need to be conscious that, no, I'm not doing this because people say good things. I'm doing it for the sake of Allah. And there could be that tension. So you can see how it can vary in levels. At one level, it's like alcohol, maybe fornication. At another level, it's more to do with character, which is like you're, gossiping about people or losing your temper. And then at another level, it could be about that more subtle thinking of, why am I doing this? And how does my heart feel when people say nice things about me and what I do? And so it's an ongoing struggle, basically, brothers and sisters. This inner struggle with our nafs is an ongoing thing, but it can look very different to each and every one of us. So what are the signs now? What are the signs of this level of the nafs? Firstly, there's fluctuation between two opposing characters. So, there's one side of you who wants to do what the ego wants and indulge and devour into everything the ego wants. But then there's another side of you who's like, I only want to please Allah. And that's why sometimes we might feel like, do I have two personalities? There's part of me that's like this, and there's a part of me that's like that. It reminds me of those cartoons. You know how they have one cloud comes up and it's an angel, and another cloud comes up and it's Satan. That's very much about this level of the nafs, the self-accusing nafs, because those two voices are talking and they're almost arguing with each other on some occasions. So there's two opposing characters that, coming through at this level. Another sign, fluctuation between obedience and disobedience. And like I mentioned, this could look different depending on their level of spirituality, how much taqwa they have. But, it's that tension again between obeying Allah and disobeying Allah. And by disobeying Allah, making the nafs satisfied. Next, hypocrisy, knowing what is righteousness, but not always being able to achieve it. So you know what you need to do. So this is why it's different to the evil commanding nafs. At the evil commanding nafs, there's obliviousness, not aware of what one should do. But at this level, you know what you need to do. You know what will please Allah, but you're not able to always do it. So you feel like a hypocrite. You feel like, I know I should be doing better, but I can't help it. I'm lapsing back into doing bad things. Ongoing feelings of guilt and remorse for wrong action. So there is guilt, which is a good thing, but at the same time, that struggle is there and a person does lapse into sins that they might be trying to overcome. Repeatedly making promises to Allah after breaking promises. So that sense of, oh, Allah, forgive me. I did something wrong. I should not have done that. But then they can't resist the temptation, and then they end up doing that wrong thing again. So lapsing back into that wrong thing, and then promising Allah that they wouldn't do it again, but then doing it again. So that inner struggle, as you can see, is very, very much there. And I think what's important to remember with this is that that struggle it is a jihad, and it is sacred. We should not give up because we are faltering. It reminds me very much of like a child who's learning to walk. They fall, but then they get back up again. You never see a child saying, okay, I fell 30 times, I'm going to stop trying. Imagine if a child did stop trying to walk each time they fell. They would not be able to walk for the rest of their life. They would not be able to run for the rest of their life. And that's like us. Each time we fall, we just need to get up and try again. Keep ourselves going and not giving up, because that's the worst thing we can do, is to give up each time we falter. Instead, as I said, get up and keep trying. And it's okay, even knowing that you might fall again, that's okay. Just try to stand on your feet, try to do the right thing, and you might find that you're doing the right thing for lengthier periods of time each time. So the first time it might be, you go a few days without doing the wrong thing that you have in mind. Then you might see yourself going for a few weeks. But then you might find yourself lapsing back and doing the wrong thing again daily. But don't give up. Just keep trying. Now, what's also important about this stage is that there are traps, what we call traps at this level. And that is because a person has a level of consciousness now at this level, they could start falling into these traps. Let me tell you one of them, just to give you an idea of what I mean. One of the traps of this stage is that a person wants to be known as a reformed person. They publicize their piety, their good deeds, and expect appreciation from people. So before you criticize this, just think about it. But someone who goes from evil commanding nafs to self-accusing nafs, that's a huge growth. Spiritually, that's a huge growth, because this person has now become conscious of Allah, and they're trying to do the right thing. So they have actually grown spiritually quite significantly. But the trap of that is they can see the growth, they can see their awareness growing, they can see that they've realized their potential to some degree, but they don't realize in the scheme of things that this growth, if you've got 100 steps, it may be that they've taken 10 steps. They don't see the 90 steps in front of them, but they see the 10 steps that they've gone up, the 10 steps. And because of that, they think that, people should appreciate what they've done, that, they try to publicize it, like, look at me, I've gone up 10 steps. Aren't I so good? This reminds me of my daughter when she was a child, or when she was probably about 5. And she was learning her arithmetics then. She was learning addition, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, and so forth. And she would come to me and she would say, Mom, guess what? 2 plus 2 is 4. I'm like, wow, that is fantastic. You're so smart. You're doing so well in math. And she would get so proud of herself, and she would say, I know, I'm so smart. I'm so smart. I'm the smartest person in the world. And I would just look at her smiling. At that age, it's normal to have that kind of thinking. But I would look at her smiling and thinking, wait until you do algebra. This addition will be like a piece of cake for you. So our spiritual growth is like that. When you take 10 steps of spiritual growth, yes, it's a lot, but in the scheme of things, it should humble us that we've got so much more to go. And sadly, sometimes when we're at this level, conscious of this level, Nafs al-Lawwamah, we just think, wow, I've achieved so much, and therefore I am so good. And that's a problem. The other trap of this level is that a person may fall into despair as a result of the failures that they've gone through, and they may actually fall out of the straight path. So that's a problem, because, again, at this level, the person is conscious of what they should be doing, and because they're not living up to that standard, it can make them fall into despair. And keep in mind that is from the shaitan, because the shaitan will be saying to that person, look at you, you know what you should be doing, but you're not doing it, you're not good enough. Just give up. Just give up and stop trying, because you're not going to achieve it. So if a person gives into that despair and does give up, it can actually take them from the straight path. And this is one of the traps or one of the strategies Satan uses all the time. Like even something like praying 5 times a day. You might feel like your prayers are not focused, you're not doing them properly. Shaitan will say, don't bother praying, you're not even doing it properly. If you're not going to do it properly, just don't do it. It's like you're not doing it, but that's not the case. Even if you're forcing yourself to do your prayers, even if you're not able to concentrate, but the fact that you're doing your prayers is better, much, much better than not doing it at all. So that's one of the traps of the self-accusing nafs, where a person falls into despair and then they actually can get off the straight path. May Allah protect us all. My final message to you all is the self-accusing nafs is something we will all experience, and that tension is part of life. Acknowledge that, accept that, embrace that, but don't give up. Just keep trying, because the more you try, the more you are likely to succeed.